So let's talk about blockchain, if you would, and smart contracts and the distributed ledger. So
Trust.
and if they are, obviously the intent would be that they would be useful in a commercial lines insurance space, is the question. And then do you see cryptocurrencies and digital payment systems playing a role in this space in the future, which would enable business transactions? And if so, how will this take place?
Don't invest in Bitcoin. I think blockchain, and again, I'm absolutely a early understander of blockchain, but from what I've seen and from what I understand, I think it will have a transformative effect. I don't know when. I think if you look at how money moves as an example, when there's a large cohort around the population of people who work in an area who send money back to family somewhere else. A Western Union type transaction, that's a very expensive transaction. Blockchain really looks for something like that because it takes those transaction fees down. And a smart contract, you're right. I think I read, I think it was E&Y did something with the shipping company, Marc, where they did a complete blockchain, a smart contract on a blockchain, and they had sensors on all the boats, so that on all their ships. So the insurance would actually change depending where the ship was. So if it was going through maybe areas where pirates are more common, that coverage would suddenly come on as it comes into a bay. Then suddenly that coverage would come on. So there are a lot of use cases happening, and I think it will be like a smart contract. Insurance at its core, some of the contracts aren't overly complicated. We put a lot of words around it, but they don't have to be that complicated. So I think it will have a very big impact. It's hard to say when. What would you guys say?
I would agree. I mean, AIG in Canada is primarily still a commercial lines carrier. We think early adoption of blockchain in terms of smart contracts is perhaps a bit more consumer focused to start. Because to your point, I mean, smart contract, it's a bit of a binary question. Did something happen or not? And if it did, then presumably there's a valid claim and a payment's made. And if not, then the contract sort of self-executes and that's the end of it. And a lot of what we insure in the commercial space is a little more complicated than that. You made some great examples about marine, and there's more of them. And yeah, it's interesting how it all intersects, right? Because that's all based on IoT and sensors and the networks that can actually reliably measure all of that and location and things. So I absolutely believe that it will filter into commercial. I think, really the dollar value is greater, the opportunity is greater in the commercial space than it is even in the consumer. So it will get there. Yeah. And smart contracts will absolutely enhance the trust proposition of insurance because there's no individual making decision. It's an autonomous algorithm or program that decides whether the claim is valid or not.
I think that travel insurance makes a lot of sense, right? Because there's a lot of third-party oracles or places that you can go that will say, did a flight leave, yes or no? There's a trusted sites for that. So it will creep in for sure, and we'll get into more complicated parts of our business in time.
And then the only thing I'd add is, I think it will really take off, and of course blockchain is different than cryptocurrency, but it will really take off if, and some of the central banks are already talking about this, if they start to issue and manage digital currencies themselves, right? So they are fiats, they are national currencies, but in electronic format. Yeah. And if I think if you have that, then you're going to have widespread buy-in from the broad-based economy, and then smart contracts really become valuable because not only they self-execute, but payment can be instantaneous as well.
So I've got a different kind of take on it. I'm actually more interested in the crypto part than the currency part, and I've seen some researchers try to figure out whether blockchain encryption could work over communications and for IoT to really secure them. For example, like the vehicle-to-vehicle communications required autonomous cars and so on. So I'm seeing that as an application. But I totally agree with you in terms of insurance. It would be for the commercial side, more of the commercial side of things as a start.